Yo, what's up? Reed Shannon, Reed Lorenzo Shannon in the building. We here with Jess and the hip hop guru. Man, shout out to Toronto, boy.
Hi, I'm Jess from the Hip Hop Guru, and today I will be speaking to a voice actor, an actor, musician, Reed Shannon. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, can you tell us a bit about your background and how you got started in the entertainment industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm originally from, I'll introduce myself again. I am Reed Lorenzo Shannon. I'm originally from Raleigh, North Carolina, and I did musical theater growing up in North Carolina because it was the only thing that my parents could like find to keep me focused, and I wasn't like breaking furniture and bouncing off walls and like punching holes in walls. I was the type of kid that like I wanted to be a spy when I was a kid, and so I connected a bunch of paper clips and put both ends into the wall to see if I could like recircuit the house. And so they had to figure out something for me to do, and so I started doing musical theater, and I ended up playing young Michael Jackson on Broadway after I trained from the time that I was like 4 to 12. And then when I was 12, I did Broadway, and then I did the national tour. And after the national tour, I went and my family, we moved to Los Angeles. And the first job that I got when I was in LA was a show called Blazing the Monster Machines, where I was singing. So like kids shows, they have songs that teach kids lessons and stuff. So we sang about stuff like elasticity and like all that type of stuff. And so then I did little guest stars like Henry Danger and School of Rock and things like that. I did a show called Station 19, which was like a Grey's Anatomy spinoff. And I just figured out how to navigate the industry in LA, and I ended up getting to work as the voice of Cartoon Network, where I announced on the channel. So every time you would hear "coming up next on Cartoon Network," that was me. Yeah, yeah. I In those days, a lot of people were like, "Bro, like if you could just shut up, that would be wonderful." Like, because they would play it like every commercial break. It'd be like, and next it's We Bear Bears. You know what I mean? It was and some people I guess watched Cartoon Network and just left it on all day, and so people would be like, "Yo, I hear your voice all day long." And also at the same time, I started recording for Arcane, which is League of Legends, which is a Emmy-winning show on Netflix. We just released the second season in November, and it's been really well received. And so I that show, that was about 8 to 10 years ago that we started that, and it's just been a journey ever since. I After that, I ended up working on Amazon Prime doing The Wilds. It was my first series regular. um and the grind doesn't stop. We're still going. About to release Pulse on Netflix, which is coming out April 3rd, doing a little guest star on that. And then I have a movie with rapper Mogul Burner called Splash City, my first lead in a film, which I'm super excited about. I hope that wasn't too long of an
No,
answer.
that is perfect. I need the fans here to get to know you, a little bit more. Yes, and now we're best friends, right? So, what were some early influences that shaped your passion for music and acting?
When my parents would tell this story, but when I was like 2 and I was like bouncing off the walls and stuff like that, the only thing that would calm me down was watching this show, Whose Line Is It Anyway, which is like a improv comedy show with Wayne Brady and Colin Mockery and a bunch of like just really wildly talented people. And my dad, he would get me like little Jet magazines with Gregory Hines on the front, who's a very famous tap dancer. Just all around entertainer. Obviously like Michael Jackson. My parents are on the older side of life. They got rocking chairs, and they like looking at grass now, but when they were raising me, they listened to Motown all the time. And so that really sparked my interest. I was also one of those kids who was like low key obsessed with Glee, but it wasn't like, I don't know what it was. I think I just liked the drama. I liked like the sort of like young adult TV vibe, and I always wanted to be a part of a show or a series that sort of captured like really great pop culture moments. And I feel like now in my career, like I've done at least two, like with the Wilds and Arcane. It's just like great conversations about the life that we live, and like people like Bruno Mars. And as I got a little bit older, like listening to like J. Cole, Forest Hills Drive, the live version, and just hearing like the crowd, on, you know, in the background of him performing like to his home crowd, like that was invigorating to me. I get goosebumps when I hear like the beginning of that album, and the lights go up and you just hear the crowd going crazy.
Oh, amazing. Were there any pivotal moments that helped define your career path?
I think definitely like I was one of the I was probably the last person that Barry Gordy ever hired, to do something. Um when he hired us to play Michael Jackson. Um so that was definitely a really crazy opportunity. It just kind of happened pretty fast, and it was like one day I was like looking up this audition, and I asked my parents if I could go. And at first they were like no, because your teacher's saying that you're doing awful in school. And then a year went by, and I got my shit together. And and then I had the opportunity. I auditioned, they liked it, I sent in a video, and then we went up to New York. And I sat in front of Barry Gordy at 12, in front of like 15 of his associates, Suzanne DePass, who was part of the team that found, Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5 originally. That was just something that really kicked off, what I'm doing now. And it was the opportunity to see this story of Motown, because Barry Gordy, he's a legend. You know what I mean? Creating Motown and really creating the blueprint of the music industry, and just entertainment as a whole, artist development, all of that stuff is so important. And so to see this story on stage, which I had been training in musical theater, so I really was understanding of the story that they were trying to get across. It just sparked in my mind, man, I can not only do this like for a living, but I can make a difference in the world, and be the artist that I see for myself as I continue to grow. And then like I'll say Cartoon Network also, that was like my first job out of high school. My parents gave me the option. They were like, you can either go to college or you can get a job. And it worked out so perfect. I mean, it was like perfect timing.
What did you do in school then? Were you like
Oh, I
motivate you to do better? Because you're
oh man, no, I actually I didn't end up going to school. I booked the job,
go.
and it's been on the grind. But it that's why I bring it up, because it made me learn how to work harder. You know what I mean? Like that real life experience, I don't think is anything that you can replace. And not to downgrade school, because it's equally as important.
Kids go to school.
Go to
Okay,
school.
go to school.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying go to school, do what's right for you, though. You know what I mean? Like I always I won't say I struggled in school. I struggled in math. But
I did too. Don't worry.
yeah, but I was always like split brain, because I wanted to express myself and I wanted to get like real world experience. And so working on Cartoon Network, it gave me everything that I needed. Like it gave me enough money to like move out of my parents' house, live on my own, get a girlfriend, and like buy shoes for her. Yeah, yeah, fiance now. I did it right, guys. I did what was right for me. But yeah, no, like those it's like those types of experiences. I looked at where I came from, and just sort of did what seemed right. And if it didn't quite work out, then I just shifted. I didn't take too long focusing on things that would just keep me back.
So then, how do you balance your career in music and acting? Are they interconnected for you?
You know, uh when I first moved to LA, I was coming off of Broadway. And everybody, because I was playing Michael Jackson, everybody was like, "Oh, you're going to be a singer." Like just let's get into the studio. But I've always been obsessed with like Saturday Night Live, and like movies, watching Will Smith, Denzel Washington. And I just couldn't give up that piece of storytelling. And so a lot of times people would be like, you have to pick one. And so for a long time I battled it, within myself, because I didn't I didn't want to believe it, but I saw a lot of people who ended up picking one, and seeing that light sort of dim in their eyes. And so, there were a lot of opportunities that I passed up on because I couldn't just pick one, like crazy boy band opportunities, and like, opportunities to be in projects that would have tried to take my sort of artist identity and just mold it into like what they need for that moment. But now, because I stuck it out, I feel like it is becoming interconnected, like because of the success of something like Arcane, I'm able to go all around the world and meet beautiful people who have been affected by the show, and show them like more art that I'm creating. You know what I mean? Like this music that I'm doing, and this movie that I have coming out. You know what I mean? And people are taking it all because I'm not giving up one or another.
That's awesome. So you voiced a lot of characters. What was it like playing the role of Echo and Firelight Leader in Arcane?
It's one of those things. It's like like a gift that keeps on giving. Honestly, it was really liberating for me when I got the job originally, because I was at a real turning point in my life of trying to figure out what kind of man I would be. You know what I mean? And to play a character like Echo, who just sort of rides for his community, that was something that my parents raised me on. But as a creative head, I didn't really know my place. My parents, they do like college tours, and they really give back to their communities, and so I was always trying to figure out how will I give back to my community and also follow my passion. And so playing a character like Echo, I got to be the leader that I read about. I got to be the leader that I saw growing up, and it led me to be that leader and turn into that leader in my community. So like when the 2020 protests were happening after George Floyd was killed, I was out there in Los Angeles like leading protests, which was not something that.
Not many people were doing.
No,
You were
yeah.
afraid.
Yeah, a lot of, especially people in my industry, because a lot of people were afraid to, lose their jobs. Like that was when I was right in the middle of Cartoon Network, which rest in peace, Cartoon Network. It's not around anymore, but you know. But a lot of people were like, like, what are you gonna do? Like, you're trying to protest and create this activism, but you have this job for this big corporation, and back then everybody was like doing the black screens, and it was like a lot of corporate pandering almost, which feel how you want to feel, but it was mostly about awareness. And I don't really care. Like if I feel something deeply, I'm gonna say it.
Of course, as you said,
you
you have
know
a
and
platform now. Yeah.
exactly. And I don't think that I would have been able to lead a protest in Burbank, California, of like 1,500 people, if I hadn't played a character like Echo, who is just like, I will do what it takes to make my community thrive, not just survive. You know what I mean? And it's an ever evolving growth, I think. But I think that that's like the beauty of something like Arcane and like a character like Echo. Um, he doesn't really take no for an answer, and I think that everybody can embody qualities like that.
Of course. And we see that you've instilled those qualities. I can tell you have. You're doing great. You're doing great. So, how do you prepare for a voice acting role?
It's the same, the same way I would prepare for any role on camera or on stage. um Really just like understanding the world that I'm in, and trying to bring what I have in myself to it. If it's not something that I've been through, then I do like the proper research. I look up, you know, whoever's been through that, or people that are going through these situations. And it's just trying to find all of the most realistic moments, because acting is really just a reflection of our human existence. I think of it as like psychology almost. I love getting to play characters that are going through such tough times, because being on set and like finding such a beautiful moment in a project, it's like recreating a person and giving millions of people a voice, you know.
Stories from the past, or like your, what you've been through, and then for the script, does that, or you just like create a scenario?
I create scenarios if I haven't really experienced or I don't know anything about what I'm reading. Um and then like I do in acting we call it substitution. And so like if I'm playing a character, I think I had an audition one time where I was playing a character who was like abandoned as a child. I had both my parents in my life growing up, but I can remember a time when I was broken up with, or like somebody that I really was into didn't want to give me that type of energy back. And so I just substitute that in that and try and really make it real, but also I think good writing is what I look for, because it's easy to tell a story when the writing is good. You know what I mean? Like something with Arcane, like I didn't have to do much work, because the writing is just like 5 stars. It's just like, man, like this is real. This is real. It's a fantasy show, but it's so real. And I think that everybody can understand, or at least people that come from supposed underprivileged backgrounds, you can understand, fighting for justice and wanting justice at the least.
What can fans expect from your music in the future?
Man, I got to be careful with how I answer this. I don't want to piss anybody off, but I'm in Toronto and I just feel like I got to say it now, bro. Like I'm coming for the crown. I've done Broadway, I've done movies, I've done TV, and I'm not going to stop that. But when it comes to music, like I'm going to be in stadiums. Like we're selling out MSG, and the only way to do that is to beat Drake. And so maybe we'll he'll get a chance to work with us, you know what I'm saying, and pass the torch to the next generation. But we're gonna create, I want to create music that heals the world. I want to create music that spreads love and create, just great art, good feelings. You know what I mean? I'm still working on a good club record because I be in the club sometimes. I'm just like, this is dope, but I need to hear something that I did in here. I need some energy. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, I mean, I don't like to, when I make music, I don't like to like say I make one type of music, because I just love writing. I love expressing myself in that medium. You know what I mean? And so just like that's for me, because acting is sort of like my day job. I really feel like I have the opportunity to create what I want and not feel held back by these strategies and these stereotypes. Like as an R&B artist, or like a lot of times when I'm walking through the airport after like a Comic Con or something like that, people assume that I'm a rapper, and I'm not a rapper, but I love to write. And if like there's some of my songs have like a verse of rap that are just in there, you know what I mean? And so that's sort of what to expect with our music.
So, can you walk us through the creative process of you making either a song or a role you've worked on recently?
I guess I'll start with like a role on like acting. Normally when I have a role that I'm gonna play, I get an audition for it. My agent sends it to me. Um, and they usually have a breakdown and they say, oh, this character is this age and this is kind of what they're going through. And so I read that, then I read what the show is about, and then I read what they call the sides, which is like an excerpt of the script, that they want to the casting has chosen to see sort of the majority of like this character's character. Um, and so what I'll do is I'll read it a couple of times. I'll go back and forth, with my girl or like a friend one of my acting buddies. And I'll just, like I said, like I'll just try and find the realism. I'll try and find these real moments, whether it's comedy or drama. There's always real moments to find, and always moments to connect. If you listen to any great actors, they'll tell you acting is like tennis. You in tennis, you hit it and you hear them. You know what I mean? And so it's a back and forth. You want to try and say the line to the other actor so that they have to respond. You know what I mean? You want to get them to react to what you're saying. And so, I could be saying the stupidest thing, but I'm gonna say it with some vigor, and so the joy for me in doing that is like once I know what's happening in the scene and I know, who this character is, the foundation of who this person is, then I can have fun with it. And then I can start, doing crazy things and like, like cocking my head to the side, something wild like that just really gets them to like see that there's some back and forth. And then, say I book the job, I then go into, so like for example, Splash City, with Burner of Cookies. I play a character named Juju, and he has an older brother who is on his way to become the next Kobe Bryant. But they live in the hood, and in the Bay, if you don't know, they have this thing called bipping, which is basically like smash and grabs. They use these little spark plugs and they break into your car and just like take whatever, to be honest. Most people in the Bay, they leave their windows down because they don't want anybody to smash their windows, cuz it's just yeah, it's like if you go to the Bay, do not, like, this is like a real disclaimer. If you go to the Bay, don't leave your windows up, don't leave anything in your car, like clear that shit out. Seriously, because they will take whatever, they'll take a hoodie, they'll take whatever. They don't care. Some of the people that we worked with were actually from there. Like they've never been on a movie set before. They are actual bippers. They're actual, like gang members. Like they're like, yo, we just splash stuff for fun. That's just the culture up there. Um, but so Juju, he's the movie is about him battling between like this life that his brother has changed. His brother used to be in the streets, but he went in a different direction, and Juju is battling whether or not he wants to stay in the streets, and like be cool and make this money and whatever, or get out the streets and like do well. And then there's a tragedy that happens. I won't give away the movie, but it really puts him to the line. I didn't grow up in the hood. You know what I mean? I grew up in North Carolina. I don't know why I said it like that. North Carolina. It's real country out there. Lots of open fields, lots of pollen. It's spring coming up. Pollen used to.
Are you joking or are you like serious?
No,
Because
I'm
I thought you were like
serious. I'm
really
serious.
open
Yeah.
field.
Open fields. Yes, it is the country out there. I didn't grow up in the Bay, but I I can understand like having to pick between this life that you've always known and maybe. You know what I mean? Like my parents did college tours when I was growing up. College was the goal, but I knew that there was a life waiting for me in my passion. And so when I turned 18 and they were like, "Listen, you can either go to school or get a job." I was like, "Man, I'm going to take a shot at every audition I can." You know what I mean? Because it's not that I didn't want to go to school and that I wouldn't think that I would thrive in school, but I know what my heart is calling me, and I know, you know, and so that was like I used substitution for that. I got the chance to dive into this character, and on set it's just like it's really finding those moments. It's finding the moments where you have what's written in the scene, but when you're really there, we shot in the real streets of what they call the filmo, which is like it's like directly in the hood, in the Bay, in San Francisco. We had to get like permission to film in certain places. We had to get security to film, because we were shooting this real story, in this real area, and trying to capture this real culture, because it's misrepresented. You know what I mean? Like it's dangerous, but there's a lot of places that are dangerous, and just because it's dangerous doesn't mean that there isn't love and there isn't life and there isn't culture. You know what I mean? And so we were trying to capitalize that, and like it's just about being there, and really understanding, like, you could see it one way, but to feel it, and to really just lock into it. And to make, like I said, like there were people who were really from there that were in the cast, and for them it was like, man, like you're putting my city on, you know what I mean? And so for us, half of the cast, we were actors that came up from LA, and they were like, we helped them with the acting tips, and they helped us with like being natural, being authentically from where they grew up. And it's like it's things like that I think create great art. And I can't wait to see the movie, and I can't wait for the world to see the movie, because like when they first dropped the trailer, a lot of people were like, well, why would they make a movie about glorifying bipping and, like, smash and grabs and glorifying this violence? And it's not glorifying the violence at all. It's really um shining a light on, spreading awareness. It's, showing the world that these are real people too. You know what I mean? They're not doing this just because they're reckless and violent. They're doing this because out of necessity, some people, and the people that aren't, like, you see what happens. There are consequences to your actions, and that's important to shine a light on, I feel like.
What's the most difficult part of being a multi talented performer?
I think the most difficult part is like keeping my mental health on lock about it, because, like, when you have a success like Arcane, um it's interesting how now everybody is seeing it, but I recorded Arcane season 2 3 years ago. You know what I mean? And so I've been trying to figure out how to build my career, in a graceful way, in an authentic way, without gimmicks, because I think of myself as more talented than having to pander to these trends and gimmicks. But the world and the industry and entertainment is going in a direction, whether you hop on the train or not. And so it's just like really, really knowing my worth, knowing, really believing that, like, if I go into a studio to record music, I'm gonna come out with a song that I love. I'll be able to open my heart up to it. Or if I get an audition, like, I I've probably, in my career, just TV and film, I've probably done over 5,000 auditions. I've probably booked maybe 10 or 11, you know.
And to get chosen from those 5,000?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a major blessing. It can be. It really can be, especially during, like, my high school years, because I went from playing young Michael Jackson on Broadway, which was like you're opening the stage door every night, and it's people who are believing that you're Michael Jackson.
And how old were you at that time?
I was like 13, and so, like, I was on cloud 9. I thought that it was the epitome of my career, and then my voice started to change, and I was like, "Ah, shit." What am I going to do now? But I had such great people around me, vocal coaches who helped me through my transition, people, my parents, who just, like, continue to pour into me and let me know, like, you're 15, you know what I mean? You have a whole career ahead of you if you really put your mind to it. Just continue to develop yourself, but yeah, it's this industry is tough. It's not an easy thing to navigate, like, from the social aspect of it to just finding what kind of roles you want to play, you know what I mean? As a young black man, like, I get auditions to play drug dealer number 1 all the time. You know what I mean? And sometimes they're valid roles. You know what I mean? Like Juju. Like, Juju is a little thug. You know what I mean? But there is a real story in there, and so that's something that I will lend myself to, but something like I had an audition one time to do like 5 minutes in a TV show where I was like fiending for some oxy or something like that. I was like, I told my agents, I was like, no, I'm not gonna be doing this one, because I don't think it adds any value to my life or anybody who would watch anything that I've done, and it also doesn't add up with, like, playing a character like Ekko, to transition into something like that.
Last question. When you're not working, what do you like to do for fun?
I love watching movies. I don't know. I'm like a movie nerd. I love telling stories, and, like, it's interesting. I've battled a lot, like, that I don't have any hobbies, because I always, like, the hobbies that I gravitate towards, I always end up monetizing. And it turns into, like, a thing of me trying to, like, best myself. And so I don't get a chance to, like, let it go. But I just recently found a small love for photography. I just shot my fiance the other day, and her pictures came out like Vogue.
We have to see them after.
Oh, they're up. They're up on her page at Dayel, Dajuel. Check that out. They're fire, and I shot them. She didn't tag me though. She didn't tag me. She wants everybody to think they're Vogue, and they are. They're Vogue where she was in Vogue, but you know, yeah, I think I just like I like capturing moments. I like being in moments. I like just like living. I just love living, and I'm so happy that I get to like live in my passion because it makes me feel like I can go into any space and just live and just breathe. You know what I mean? And as I get older, I feel more and more free to be able to do that, and so yeah, I just love life.
We love that for you. Okay, let's move on to the Q and A's. Does anyone have any questions? Any questions? Okay, yes.
So when I got the audition, they barely had any art. They hadn't named it Arcane. It was at that point it was just Untitled League of Legends story. And so all I had was, I guess, on the league, on the like Riot client or the league website, they have like a breakdown, a description of like who the boy who shattered time was. That was all I had to go off. Some street punk scientist. And so that's why I love the people who created the show, because they really like built out this world, you know. And so I had the opportunity to sort of like create a new thing almost, and like really bring myself to. I was like 16 or 17 when I started doing it. So like all of that like youthful like swag and stuff like that was like me being like, yeah, like I'm walking into a voiceover studio, you know what I mean? And it was just like it was them being like, or me being in the studio being like, yeah, is that cool? And they're like, yeah, man, just keep going. It was that I think a lot of times I go places, people are like, oh, thank you for bringing the character to life. And I can't accept it, because it was really them allowing, like opening the doors for me to do that. And it's just beautiful. It's beautiful to hear stuff like that, because like that was all that I was searching for when I was growing up, just like seeing representations of what I could be. And even though I'm older than Ekko now, like the way that he is about his community, the way that he goes hard for Jinx, the way that he goes hard against Caitlyn, or Jace, and just like being really rooted in what he believes in, like that's something that just sort of like continues to feed me. And everything that I do, it makes me feel like I'm not crazy for saying no, I believe in this, and I'm gonna keep going after it. And I think that it's important, especially for young Black boys. You know what I mean? I also like wanted to touch on about that was like, when I was in that space of trying to figure out what kind of man I wanted to be. There's a really negative stereotype about Black men that's like, oh, we're aggressive and we have to be pushy. And I think it's sad because a lot of young Black men feel like they have to live up to that. It's the same thing that Juju in Splash City is dealing with. You know what I mean? He's dealing with his older brother, who he really looks up to, who was like, I was in the streets, but I see a better life for myself. I don't have to be that person, But he also has these guys who are in the streets providing for themselves. You know what I mean? Which is something that he's never seen before. And so it really makes you think. But playing a character like Ekko is a gentle type of guy. You know what I mean? And he brings out the lion when he has to, and I think that's how we should be as men, period. You know what I mean? We don't have to be aggressive to get our point across. We can be rooted in who we are, and let everybody else see that. Let everything else do the work. And I think that's like the most important quality about Ekko that I really enjoyed playing. And over the years in playing him, it made me feel much more comfortable in being myself, because I'm not an aggressive guy. I hope that I don't come off aggressive, like in this interview. Like I know I don't, I'm not like intimidating or anything like, and I don't want to be. You know what I mean? Like I think that if you spread love and you just like treat people right, you don't have to be in these conflicts. You don't have to be aggressive. You know what I mean? The people will gravitate towards you. You know what I mean? Like me shedding my light and not being that person brought me Arcane, which is giving me the chance to meet thousands of people all around the world who are just like, man, like I love that. You know what I mean? It, yeah, I don't know. That's what's up. Thanks for the question.
Anybody else?
So when you were recording active lines for Echo, did you have any like creative freedom over like his personality or like the voice?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like I said, they sort of just let me run with it. When I went into the studio for the first time, I was really sort of in my head about voiceover. Now I know that voiceover is no different from acting. It's all the same. It's building a character and performing a character. I think good work is like that. And so what I learned though, and what they showed me, was that I could just be myself and just add those layers of like what I'm going through. Echo grew up in Zon, and so he has a little bit of like a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. You know what I mean? But he's a hero nonetheless. And so it's like about lowering my tone and sticking my words and just really really knowing my point. You know, and it's so crazy. Like I was in a panel with some of my other cast members in Florida recently, and they were asking them about their favorite voice lines, or like, or what was the question? It was like, is there anything in the show that, or any line that they put in the show that you feel sort of cringe about? And I don't remember like my favorite take of any line. Like I watching it back, I'm like, man, they must have picked the perfect stuff, because there's stuff in there that I didn't even know I could do. I didn't even know, like, it came out of me, and I'm still watching it like, wow, this guy's good. Who did that? But I mean, that's the joy. Like I said, that's the joy of like great writing. Like when we were in the studio, they would give me three takes. Sometimes we would just read the scene and they'd be like, yeah, that's great. Because I think Arcane was about the feeling more than anything. When they made the show originally, it was for the fans. It wasn't to be this Emmy winning series, this global, like, first of its kind type of thing. It was for the fans of League, who just like built up Riot Games over the years, and they just wanted to tell this story. And I think that intention made it something that people who don't even know what League of Legends is can gravitate towards. And I'm blessed to, be a part of it. I'm blessed to have the opportunity to be in the studio and to go around to all of these places and just talk about it. It's a great joy in my life. Yeah, yeah. Favorite thing about being in Toronto? Um oh man, I don't know. Uh yeah, yeah. It's like, how can you pick? Uh the most shocking thing? How everybody gets along. We don't do that in the States. No. It's, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The squirrels. Black squirrels? What is this? What is this sorcery? Are they like real? I don't know. We don't have black squirrels. We have raccoons. Are they like special colored or something? Do raccoons play in trash? Okay. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the most shocking thing is like, it's like coming from the States. This is my second time in Canada. Coming from the States, it's like the Mandela effect up here. Like everything is just a little off. And it's kind of freaking me out. Like I went to the Raptors game last night. I didn't know Drake was like the king up here. Like, OVO sound is where it's at. I got it on right now. We representing. But like in the states, it's like the NBA takes over the arena. But that was like Drake's show. And I respect it. Like it changed my mind on branding, and I don't know. I love the love and the culture like that is coming out of this city, and I also love Montreal. I love Montreal. Montreal was great. Shout out to Palazzo in Montreal. Had a great time last time. Hey. Mhm. Yeah. Live in the moment. Straight up, like worrying about what you didn't do or worrying about what you're gonna do has no matter if you don't do it. You know, um, one of the most beautiful things about Arcane and its reception is my ability to be able to create things as I go. Like before I had a show like Arcane under my belt, I had to like sort of be like, okay, if I do this, maybe it'll get this reception and then I can do this. And now like I'm able to come to somewhere like Toronto and we can set up something like this and have great conversations, and just like create inspiring energy. Like I feel so inspired just being able to speak about inspiration, and I hope that like whoever sees this is inspired by something that they heard, and it's like the little things like that go a long way, but like for me, I don't really believe in like the construct of time. I think that it's like it's BS that they've told us to separate us and divide for whatever reason. Like it doesn't matter. But like I meet a lot of people who are like impressed with what I've done in my career, and older folks who happen to have advice for me about things that I don't really need advice from, or they just like have to find a criticism or something, because they think that I'm young and I don't know what I'm doing. Like that to me is a clear sign of like, man, like you never got a chance to explore and let your light out. Like it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter how young you are. Like you can do what you want to do in this world. We have free agency in this world. You know what I mean? If you have faith in yourself, I have faith in God. I hope that I hope that everybody finds faith in God. I pray about it. But those are the things that are solid foundations for whatever you want to do. If you say you want to build a gaming station, that's nothing. You can start that out of your house. Steve Jobs built Apple out of his garage. You know what I mean? Like everything is, and that wasn't even that long ago. Everything is doable. There's a plethora of opportunities in this world, and it all just starts with like believing that you can actually do it. And so I would say that. I would say that to anybody. You know what I mean? And it seems like, I mean, it can be easier said than done, especially considering the conditioning that this world kind of wants to stick us in, and these categories that the world wants to stick us in. But it doesn't mean anything. It's literally just that. Like you say I am who I am. Nobody can take that away from you. And if they try, just go somewhere else. You know what I mean? And it can be, in my opinion, it can be that simple. And I was blessed with parents who gave me this vibe of independence that led me to that. But now it's like a mission for me to tell everybody, like, man, you can do whatever you want to do. There are people in very high places who are doing whatever they want to do all around the world. You know what I mean? And it's not stopping any of us from doing what we want to do. you know um And so I would just say find your inspiration and go for it. Just like shoot for the moon. At least you'll land in the stars.
Okay, well, thank you for the questions, everyone, and thank you, Reed, for sitting down with us today. It was awesome. Well, I'm Jess from the Hip Hop Guru. Until next time.